Hello everyone, this is Java Selenium Module 2. Let us get started. I am Naresh Chaurasia. In this series of Selenium automation using Core Java, let us discuss Core Java concepts. So let us look at the agenda of this module. We are going to cover arrays, then we are going to cover functions, then we'll look at polymorphism, then we'll look at string, then we'll look at string buffer, and then we'll look at string builder. And finally, we will wind up this module understanding the difference between string, string buffer, and string builder. So let us start with arrays. What is an array? Array is a collection of similar type of elements. Here, the emphasis is on similar, meaning that you put together similar type of elements. It could be integer data type, floating point data type, Boolean data type. So it should be similar type of elements. So arrays are important structure to hold data. This I will show with an example in few minutes. Now Java allows us to hold many objects of same type using array, and it can be used with the help of a loop to access the elements by their index. This also I will explain with a diagram, or rather a program in some time. And then an array is a structure which holds sequential elements of same type. So here few points which I have been mentioning over and over again. One is similar data type. Now I'm mentioning sequential. So let us understand this concept with the help of a diagram on my drawing board. So I'll switch to my drawing board from here. Okay, so now let us understand the concept of similar data type and also sequential data type. So let me go ahead and insert array here. So as you can see, this is a structure which is similar to array. Now if I create a array holding, let's say, integers, so I'll put 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Now as you can see, this is an array or a structure which is holding similar data type. In this case, all of these are integers. Now also you will notice that they are ordered, or rather they are stored in a sequential order, meaning that first it is 10, then it is 20, then it is 30, then it is 40, then it is 50. So this is how an array works in Java. It holds similar data types wherein everything is an integer, and also they are stored in a sequential manner or a sequential order, which is 10, it is followed by 20, and this is how it goes. Now let us understand how we declare an array. So as you can see, here we have a syntax stating that int with square bracket a equal to new of int 5. So let me go and explain this on my drawing board. So this is how we are basically declaring an array. We have int square bracket name of the variable or name of the array and new, and then we say which data type it is and we specify the size. So what this will do is it will go ahead and create an array for me which is of size 5, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can also declare this array by this particular method, as you can see in front of you. Now there are different ways of declaring the same array, which is of type integer and which is of type size and which is of size 5. So they are just two different ways. So let me explain this concept to you with the help of an example in Eclipse. So let me bring up my Eclipse. So here I'll create a package and I'm going to call it module2.arrays, and I'll create a class here. I will call it as arrays example. I will check this option here to generate main method automatically. All right, now let's look at an example. So I will say int a equal to new of int 5. Here I'll specify size 5. Now whether you create an array like this, or let's say I comment this and create array by putting this bracket here, they mean the same thing in Java. It is just different ways of doing the same thing. So what this does is it creates an array. As you can see here, it creates an array which is of type integer and the size is 5. Size 5 means you can store 5 elements in this particular array. So let us go ahead and do that. So I can now, before we do that, we also need to understand how do we access the elements within an array. So the index in array starts from 0, as you can see here. So although the size of this particular array is 5, but when you want to access element in Java, the first element index is defined with 0, then it is 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. So let us go and use this concept of accessing elements by using their index in Java. So I'll say, if I say int 0 equal to, let's say, 10, then after that I can say a of 1 equal to 20, for examples. So like this, I can access elements at different index. And in Java, index of an array starts from 0, as I have already mentioned. Once you have done this, if you want, you can display the value by saying system.out.println, and I'll say a of 0 here. And if I run this program, we will get a value of a0 as 10, meaning that the value 10 has been stored at this particular index, as I had shown you earlier. As you can see, at the index 0 here, I've stored a value 10. So let me run this program and display the value for you. I'll right click, I will say run as, and then I'll say Java application, and we see a value of 10 being displayed. Now this doesn't look like a very good way to set the values in case if the array is of very big size. So let's try it out a little differently. Instead of setting the values like this, I'm going to use for loop, which we have already studied earlier. If not, you can refer to the playlist and check out how for loop works. So I will say for int I equal to 0, I is less than 5, and I'll say I plus plus, then I'll open bracket and close bracket. So this is a for loop I'm trying to make use of. Now I will say a of I equal to, let's say, I plus 10, right? And also I will try to display this value. So I don't need this one. I will remove it from here. I'll put it here and I'll make it of AI. Now AI is initially I starts with 0. So A0 equal to 0 plus 10 and display that value. A1 is equals to 1 plus 10. So this will keep on going for the count of 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, as you can see in the for loop, and it will display the value which is set in the array at different index. So let me right click and run this program and run as Java application. So you can see the value which is stored in the array is of integer type, and I'm displaying this value with the help of line number 15. Now let's come back to the slides and see that few other ways of declaring array. One of them is here. So let me go back to my drawing board again and let's look at another way of declaring an array. If you will look at this here, as you can see, here we define the data type and we put the value of the array. So let me go back to Eclipse and do this. So I can say int p open bracket close bracket equal to, then I'll open close curly bracket and I can say 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. Now what this will do, the statement at line number 10, what it is going to do is that it is going to create an array B for me, which is of type integer. It is an array because I have used this square bracket here, and on the right side I have also assigned value in that array, and the size of array is 5. Why it is 5? Because I have put 5 elements here. So if you want to find out if the size of B is really 5, then I will say system.out.println. I can say B dot length. There is a value B dot length which will display the length of this array. So for the time being, let's try to first display the length and then we will access the elements. So I'll say right click, run as Java application. So at the bottom here, you can see the length of that particular array, which is 5. So then what is the difference between these two approach? The difference is that in the first one, there is no value assigned. In the second one, you are assigning values explicitly. So this is the major difference between the first approach, which is at line number 8 here, and the next approach, which is at line number 10. I'll talk more about what is the value assigned here in this particular statement at 8 when we talk about default values. We have to understand the concept of default values, which I'll be covering in a different video. But for now, it is enough to understand that it does not have any value, or rather it has default values, which actually is 0. How it becomes 0, we will talk about it in a different presentation or different recording, where we talk in details about default values in Java. But in this particular case, the difference is that you are explicitly assigning a value here, but in this case, you are not assigning any values. Now let us go ahead and display the values in the array B. So I will just create a for loop for, I'll say int j equal to 0, j is less than, here now this time I will say b dot length, and I'll say j plus plus open and close bracket. I'll not display this now, I'll comment it, and instead of this I will try to display a separator line so that we can know that output is coming from different arrays. And then here I'll say, let me copy this and let me put it here, and here I'm going to say it is b of j. Since here I'm using j, sorry, it is j here, so I'm using j to access the elements. Now let me right click on this program and say run as Java application. So you will see we are accessing the elements using the for loop here in this particular case for an array B. Now let's go back to our slides and continue further. Now there is one another way, as you can see here. So let me show that also to you. So you can create int c equal to new of int with bracket here 10 or and 20, right? You can specify as many elements you want. Now, if you will try to display the length of this particular array, it will be 2 because it has 2 elements. So internally, there is no difference between this and this, but it is just different ways of creating an array in Java. So they all are same. It is just that there are different ways of allowing you to create an array in Java programming language. So let us continue further with our arrays. Now arrays can be declared for primitive and non-primitive data type. So primitive we have already seen in our earlier recordings. Primitive is integer, float, double, right? Non-primitives are objects in Java, which we will cover once we get started with object-oriented programming. Now, instead of declaring array, or rather instead of declaring a set of integers a1, a2, 800, it is easy to declare it as a100. So what I mean by that is, let's say if you want to hold 100 integers, instead of doing int a1, comma int a2, comma int a3, it is up till 100. If you are trying to declare till 100, I mean, it is practically very difficult to create so many integer variables and then eventually maintain them. Instead, what you can do is you can say int arr equal to new of int 100, right? So this is a lot easier as compared to having defined 100 integer variables. Now it is fast and efficient to access an element in an array using the corresponding index without actually traversing through the entire array. So what I mean by that is, let's say if you want to access, let's say this is an array of size 5, as you can see here. Now if you have to access an element 40, you do not have to traverse to each element, meaning that you don't have to start, go to this, then here, then here, then here. If you say a of 0, 1, 2, 3, directly you can access the element at that particular index. So that is what this statement is trying to say, that it is fast and efficient to access an element in an array using the corresponding index without actually traversing through the entire array. So this is one of the benefit of using arrays, that it is faster in terms of accessing the elements which are stored in an array. So let's go to our next slide. Now size of array is fixed once it is created, meaning that if you have created an array of size 5 to begin with, you cannot alter the size, or it can only hold 5 elements. The size cannot be changed later on. Now, for example, a character array of 10 characters can be declared as this: char, the bracket, ch equal to new char of 10. Now, it will be always retaining its size as 10. This size cannot be modified or altered while the program is running. Now, if an array of size 5 is defined, if a user tries to access an element which is at index 6, then it will throw an exception, which is array index out of bound exception. I'll talk about exceptions in more details once we start with exception module. But remember that if you have an array, you cannot access anything which is outside of this, which is on the right and on the left. So this concept of right and left you will understand when we talk about exception handling in Java. But for now, it is enough to understand that you cannot go beyond the range or the limit which has been allocated for a particular array. That means Java says I do not understand the index beyond 4. So here index is 0, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. So if you try to access element at index 5, it does not understand, and therefore it is going to throw an exception. And as I have already mentioned, we'll cover exceptions in details in exception handling module. So that's all regarding arrays in Java. I hope the concept is clear to all of you. Thank you so much.